Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling, your ultimate destination for all things AEW and WWE. Whether you're a hardcore wrestling fanatic or just a casual viewer, we've got you covered with the latest news, in-depth show reviews, and our unfiltered opinions on everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Join us as we dive into the high-octane action, dramatic storylines, and backstage buzz of AEW and WWE. Get ready to step into the ring with us and stay on top of the wrestling world. This is Top Tier Wrestling. Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling, everyone. I'm your host, Josh, the Sultan of Suplexes, and I'm here with my awesome co-host, the Duchess of Dropkicks, Dawn. And in this episode, we're going to be reviewing AEW Collision from November 9th. Let's get into it. And Wait.
What am I, the Duchess of Dropkicks?
The Duchess of Dropkicks.
You already know. Yeah, I like it. Things that I like, the opener, that was great. Things that I maybe didn't like. AEW Collision for 11-9.
Oh, no. Well, we start out, as Collision is wont to do, almost in media res. There's not really a big opener or anything for Collision. It just cuts right almost into the first match immediately. And in this match, it's going to be the House of Black, all three members, with, not Alistair, Malachi. There we go. Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews going against the Iron Savages. I'm usually pretty happy to see the House of Black, but I'm not thrilled that it's going to be House of Black versus the Iron Savages. I'm not a big fan of the Iron Savages at all. I don't need three large, hairy men telling me they're going to take me to Titty City, despite the fact that that's an upgrade from what they used to say.
Yeah.
That said, I don't have to worry about the Iron Savages for long because this is essentially just a squash for the House of Black. There's about 3 moves before they hit the Cerberus in the corner to finish. And then Malachi grabs the mic. Presumably he was fixing to say something, but immediately FTR's music hits. And FTR come to the ring indicating they're not looking for a fight tonight, but they're here for business. And Dax goes on talking about how he puts the AEW World Tag Team Championship above everything else in his life. And nothing changes except for the obstacles in the way. And that FTR and House of Black basically built Collision. But for the first time on Dynamite, FTR will be versus the House of Black. And their only question is, which 2 members of the House of Black is it going to be? And Brody King and Malachi step forward. And that's pretty much it. I think FTR and House of Black are going to have a match on Dynamite to determine who gets to go against Private Party.
Malachi told Malachi wished them good luck. That was it.
Yeah. And then we get notified that Swerve Strickland will be facing Bobby Lashley officially for Full Gear. And then we cut to a backstage spot with Leo Rush saying he's heating up and he's about to be on fire. And he says he wants to feel greater and feel alive again. So he wants to call out Swerve Strickland next week. And he says the man of the hour is back around. He also gave kind of a strong indication that he is keeping the invite into the Hurt Syndicate that he received from MVP at the forefront of his mind.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know. He wants to go after Swerve. Okay. Okay. Good luck.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's gonna
That's
have to show.
it.
Yeah, he's gonna have to show me something more. I mean, I don't know a ton about Leo Rush. I'm more familiar with his stuff like recently in AEW, but he did in the past on the independent circuit put on some cool matches, like
Yeah.
an homage to Bray Wyatt, and he was running this one character that was like a crazy zombie. And those were altogether more interesting than whatever he's been portraying here in AEW. Since he's been here, he's more or less been a teeny tiny little guy on the roster who gets thrown around a lot. And I'm like, we already have Darby Allin. So I mean, I'm not trying to be mean to Leo Rush, but I have yet to see anything that makes me find him impressive in the slightest. And I'm just not sure I see what him going against Swerve is going to accomplish other than him getting splattered. But we'll find out. I mean, I'm always willing to give him a chance to show me something.
Yeah.
And that brings us to match 2 of the night, which is Top Flight versus the Outrunners. And I am absolutely here for the Outrunners. I'm happy every time they're on the screen in just about any capacity. And this was a pretty good match between the two of them because I wasn't sure what to expect because Top Flight has been doing pretty well. I mean, they're a high flyer group, so you're either into it or you're not. But as high flyers go, they're very good. And I was like, how's that going to work with like Truth Magnum and Turbo Floyd wrestling like a style that is directly from like the early 80s? That relies heavily on body slams, atomic drops, and Manhattan drops, and elbows. And surprisingly, it worked out pretty good. It was an entertaining match as far as I was concerned, and it ends up in a win after the Outrunners hit Total Recall on I think it was Dante Martin.
Think so.
And that's the 1, 2, 3 for them.
Yeah. I unfortunately have to disagree. I think the fact that they are high flyers and the Outrunners are kind of a gimmick wrestling tag team, it pointed that out a little too much for me. Because Top Flight can't really do a lot of the stuff that they would normally do and make it look like it's going to be a believable win for the Outrunners. So they have to kind of come down to their level. And I think maybe it would have been better if you had like 2 powerhouse wrestlers because they'd be a little bit more grounded than Top Flight. I mean, I think I even remember saying as much when we were watching it that I could really see the old school wrestling. Like I could see it. I mean, I could see the speed. I could see the gimmick of it, and it wasn't really working for me with this match with Top Flight. Not saying I wasn't happy to see the Outrunners, and I was very happy to see them get a win, especially over a group like Top Flight, just because of the status of that group. That means they're moving on up, but I don't know to what end. I'm pretty sure these 2 dudes can actually go. I'm pretty sure they can. I mean, they did a great job with what they did in the ring. I just don't. I just don't know where this is gonna fit in ultimately for AEW. They kind of like their gimmick wrestlers. They love them until they don't. So, but
Well,
I'm go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
I
go.
was just going to say, I think there's 2 things going on in this particular match. one, we're starting to see Top Flight come apart.
Mhm.
We saw it previously in previous weeks with Action Andretti, going off and feeling frustrated. And in this match, there was a point where Darius Martin does a suicide dive out of the ring and comes very close. I mean, not that close, but the idea is that he comes very close to accidentally running into Layla Gray, their valet that's on the outside of the ring. And so you see Dante get in Darius's face about not being more careful and almost hitting Layla. And so I think we've got one storyline, which is that Top Flight is falling apart. And we've got the other story, which is that the Outrunners are on the up and coming. And I think this did a sufficient job in kind of conveying both of those points. And I think it also sort of explained, not that I don't think the Outrunners can win, but I think part of how they won was the fact that Top Flight are not on the same page.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's probably why I'm saying I don't know where this is going to go for them in the long run. They got their stories across just fine. It was just the chemistry between the two styles that kind of like oil and water for me. I saw a bit of a clash because one was very slow and kind of old school, a lot of power moves and whatnot, and the other is kind of I'm gonna jump off the ropes and fly to the stars and then try to come back down and give you a DDT. Um, so I mean, it just for me it was kind of a clash that pointed out or highlighted the gimmickiness, if that's a word, of the Outrunners. Not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just wondering where is that gonna go in the long run for them. Like how they won this match, I totally get, but I don't know. I'm just we shall see.
Oh, I see. So you're thinking that their adherence to their 80s gimmick, where they're trying to use a lot of the more old school moves that have kind of been moved away from in favor of more like 50,000 super kicks and more intense
Yeah.
moves, is going to end up holding them back in a place like AEW. That's
Yeah.
possible. Um,
I mean, because we're talking. They're a gimmick. They're a gimmick tag team. And gimmick wrestlers have a spot in AEW that I think is a little bit better than WWE. I mean, WWE will run that horse into the ground. If you're a gimmick wrestler and you're up and the fans are with you, you got the backing of the fans, then WWE, you will be the workhorse that will never sleep. They will wear you down until there is nothing left with your gimmick. AEW kind of does it in smaller doses. So the people are around a lot longer, and you don't get tired of them. As a matter of fact, you end up wondering like, where's Danhausen, right? Or like, where are the Outrunners? Like you look for their gimmick wrestlers. So I think
yeah.
the Outrunners will be fine for a minute. I just don't know where, like, I don't know who they're gonna. How do I want to say this? I'm concerned that in the long run there won't be much advancement for this particular gimmick. So I'm hoping that they got something else lined up or something, or some sort of like evolution of the Outrunners or something, because I like both of these guys. I want them to stick around, right? And if they can get over with the Outrunners, then they could, get over with another gimmick or get over with something else, just as long as they're staying in the spotlight and not getting swept under the rug eventually. I
That's
hope
it.
I hope that makes sense, because like Danhausen is funny, and I'm using him as an example because he was another gimmick wrestler that immediately came to my brain for AEW. But like Danhausen is good, and even he at a point started doing more wrestling, so it was less him doing the gimmicks. Like he was putting in the work too. Um, I don't know what happened to him, but I'm using him like I said as an example. Uh, because he he had other stuff that he could do, but AEW, when they saw that he could do a particular thing that the fans really liked, then every time we saw him, which was small doses, but he still did that one freaking joke, which is the pointing, like he's gonna point at you and curse you. That
Yeah.
became that became everything he did by the end of the, like, when we stopped right before we stopped seeing him. That was like all that dude was there to do. He would be under a ring, like under the freaking ring. I don't know how long, just to come out and point at some guy at one point in the match, and then get his ass beat. Right,
Yeah.
and then he just disappeared. So that's what I mean. I'm just hoping
Hmm.
that there's more that the Outrunners got, because I don't want them to get stuck in a gimmick that ultimately there's a roof there, and it's not too far away.
Well, that's the creative risk you take. Like, there's a couple of things going on here. One, there's a creative risk that you take when you try and convey a character, and that's what
Yeah.
Outrunners are. They're character wrestlers.
Yeah.
They are the character that is the spirit of the '80s of pro wrestling and pop culture. And you always kind of take a creative risk when you do something like that. Like, you could get pigeonholed. That's true. Um, but there's also, like, it's kind of a wrestling bog standard. Like, wrestling really likes catchphrases and things that you repeat. Like,
That's
you've
true.
got to give the people what they want. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
whole thing there. And another creative risk would be like the Beast Mortos. He effectively could be considered limited because he is portraying a character that doesn't speak, which makes
Yeah.
your promo options incredibly limited, except that they're doing a really good job of him sort of playing the, like, silent protagonist, like or him saying something and somehow the wrestlers might start understanding what he meant, like, how some characters in Star Wars could understand R2D2. um so, I mean, there's stuff there. It really just depends on what they decide to do with it, but you always kind of take that risk when you commit to a character or a gimmick.
Yeah.
So, the only thing I can say is time will tell. But I mean, are you? I mean, are they getting stale with you at this point?
No. No, I just like I said earlier when I started this, I pointed out that it was, I could see the gimmick in the Outrunners. I could see the math that it took to get Top Flight to lose that match, realistically speaking. Okay, you know what I mean when I say realistically. So ultimately the whole point of me saying what I said, or the whole start of this, was I didn't think that the match was that good, because I don't think I thought it was like oil and water. I thought the Outrunners and Top Flight didn't look that good together. Um, their styles. That's all I was talking about originally. Like, I'm not done with their gimmick. I'm not tired of it, but uh, this match between these two particular wrestlers, I get why it happened. Top Flight had a story to tell, and the Outrunners are on the up and up. Um, but
No, I can dig it. And that, I think, happens from time to time. I mean, we can look at WWE and point out how Bailey has been at odds seemingly
oh
with
yeah,
the
yeah,
last few opponents she's been in with. Um, so I see where you're coming from. I do. Um, if I had to guess where they're going with it, like, at least in the immediate future, I tend to think we are in the midst of, like, tag teams that are vying to go against Private Party, right?
yeah,
And this was a match to try and move up in that rank. And next week we've got the House of Black versus FTR, and I'm willing to go out on a limb and predict that FTR wins.
yeah.
And what I foresee is we're going to get at some point where the Outrunners have to go against their best buds in the universe, FTR.
Yeah, and that's going to be a great match because those two, like one of them feels like a gimmick of the other.
Yeah, they
So
almost are reflecting their gimmicks back at one another because FTR
yeah,
sort of has that like Miami Vice-ish kind of sounding almost music or vibe,
yeah,
and that's not too terribly different than the '80s gimmick of the Outrunners. So I think
right.
that could be.
And I think they know that too. I think that's probably one of the reasons why they put those gentlemen
Hmm.
together.
Oh, for sure. And so I think, the inevitable outcome will be Outrunners versus FTR. I think that's where this is heading.
Yeah, and I don't expect the Outrunners to win that match, but I do
Yeah.
expect for it to be good. I expect for it to be interesting, and that's fine because I can't see the Outrunners going against Private Party and winning just yet. But I could see FTR possibly. I don't think they are either, because I think they're trying to um, give Private Party a well deserved push. But I do expect that it's going to be um, FTR that Private Party goes against, and not the Outrunners. But I'm telling you, I think that's gonna be a really fun match, probably really good. And maybe, just maybe, the Outrunners are gonna really shine, like show us a little bit more. Not that they haven't shown us enough. You know what I mean? I hope you understand what I'm saying, because I'm
I
not
do.
talking
I
smack
do.
about the Outrunners. I am still up on them.
Well, no,
And I
I
think that's the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying, because I want to continue to see these two gentlemen in any capacity. You know?
yeah, no, I feel you on that, and I don't disagree with you at all. Like the Outrunners is one of the teams that organically has risen on the backs of fan choice, and I that's a great place to be, and it's great that AEW is willing to hear that and do something with it instead of being
Yeah.
like, no, these aren't the guys we've picked, so fuck you.
Yeah.
Um, that said, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Outrunners are going to have to rise to their newfound like popularity. Like, the work doesn't stop once you get over. That's when it really begins.
Yeah.
So I feel what you're saying, and I'm with you. I hope they can keep it coming. Because I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm happy with them. I think they're fun. I think they're one of the elements in AEW that stands like kind of on the other end of like, and there's a place for all of this. I'm not picking one over the other here, but they sort of stand as the like, these are the guys you can bring your young children to see, as opposed to here is the barbed wire death match, which is not so much for the kids. This is more for the adult fans that want to see the extremes of in-ring action.
Yeah.
And I think there's a bit of all of that that's available. And I like that the Outrunners sort of present like these are the fun gimmick that, you can get your kids the little shades and the little Outrunner thing, and you can let them watch an Outrunners match without thinking that your kid's going to have a nightmare tonight. That's
Yeah.
great.
Hmm.
So I'm here for it. It really does feel like a nice homage to like the 80s wrestling that predated the turn into the attitude era, like when I was little, like 11 and 12 or 10, watching Hulk Hogan, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well,
So
I
move sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say no, I'm hoping that they stick around though. Just so here's to the Outrunners and a long, illustrious career.
Indeed. um but moving on from that match, we are taken to the Acclaimed, and they are backstage and they challenge LFI next week on Dynamite. And Caster is asking LFI where their balls are, and that's when MVP and the Hurt Syndicate show up. And he asks when the Acclaimed are going to take themselves seriously. Bowens isn't having any of it. He doesn't care for MVP. He even wonders why Caster even kept that card. So he storms off. But MVP points out that he knows Caster still has the card. So there's another tag team that they're sort of signaling isn't in lockstep with one another. And that's a couple of times now. So I'm not sure what they're trying to do here with the Acclaimed. Because Bowens and Caster don't seem to be thinking the same things.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what. You know what? Have you noticed that there's some tag team issues like in both WWE and AEW?
I have.
Like there's just like it's everywhere, right? Like
what's
Go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say what I feel to draw from that comparison. I feel like the Acclaimed are almost kind of the mirror team to what's happening with New Day right now between Xavier and Kofi.
Yeah. Yeah, almost. Yeah. Which is something, yeah, because we got a lot to talk about there too. So I'm not gonna get too deep in the weeds with that. But yeah, I'm noticing that there's just drama, just tag team drama everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, and I don't know what Caster is expecting to do. I know he's the greatest rapper in the world, right? I know, but I don't know. I don't know if Caster would be a really good fit for
No,
the Hurt
I don't.
Syndicate.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't know
think
either.
so.
But I'm getting vibes like that take me way back to like Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty's split.
Yeah.
Where Shawn Michaels outgrew the
Man.
Rockers and was ready to go all on his own. And I feel like that's what Caster is signaling.
Think so, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, Caster's not this most recent promo, but the one before where Caster was like, not wanting to let Bowens hardly say anything, not even his like everybody loves the Acclaimed. It very much gives me the vibe that Max Caster is getting too full of himself to be able to participate in a team. I'm very much getting the vibe that Caster wants to strike out and be a singles competitor.
Yeah, me too. I think he might go heel.
Yeah, I do think that's being telegraphed is him making a heel turn where it's all about him, which is always considered a heel move when you become self-interested to that degree.
Yeah, he's going Xavier Woods.
Yeah, kinda. I'm not even sure. It's because I feel like it was more Kofi, right? Like, because not to get stuck talking about WWE, but like Kofi was told, like he agreed with Xavier to let Xavier QB the team, and then at every turn, Kofi still just does whatever he wants, and he did it more openly, like more overtly. He did it when they were having that promo on SmackDown, and was it SmackDown or Raw? No, it might be on Raw. I might be telling the tale too soon. Okay, well, at any rate, yeah, we'll talk about that when we cover Raw next. But yeah, long story short, Kofi agreed to let Xavier QB and doesn't seem to be listening, and that's just frustrating Xavier when he's like, that's what we agreed to. And they're trying to somehow make it like Xavier is the one that's doing something wrong here. And it's like, is he though? Like, Kofi is the one who agreed and then didn't obey at all. Like, just
the exact opposite of what he said he was agreeing to do.
Yeah, so I'm not
at
sure
every
it's
turn,
clear
at every freaking turn, like it's not. Look, whether or not you agree with the action is irrelevant. When you said that you're a soldier now. You're following. You can't do that though. So I don't know what to tell you. I honestly, I don't know what to tell you. You haven't even tried it. You haven't done anything, and then later, backstage, go, hey man, I really want to talk to you about da 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 da. Just a few seconds ago, like I didn't really like that. You sure this is the way you want to go? Something, something. But immediately, the second he says anything or does anything, no man, we gotta do this. We gotta help him.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly, and yet somehow they're trying to make it sound like we're supposed to be annoyed with Xavier, but it's like, but you haven't listened to one thing he's tried to tell you to do as the QB of the team,
Yeah.
so
And
it's not so clear cut.
And here's the thing that's killing me about that. All of this started originally because Xavier wanted a title shot on his own, a singles shot, and because Kofi had it, because Kofi's had the belt, right? And then somehow we ended up back in this thing where Kofi was like, "Oh, I got us a tag team match for the belt, or this," and Xavier's like, "Okay, I thought we were going for the singles thing, but okay." And then Kofi kind of threw out the singles match that he had went backstage or he went and talked to Adam about for Xavier. I don't know if you remember that, and I can't remember what happened there. But yeah, he didn't win.
Yeah,
but
but yeah,
but my point is, this all started because Xavier wanted to do some branching out, and somehow we ended up back to Kofi being star of the channel. I can't even recall how we got back here, but. Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm kind of siding Team Xavier, and I know we ain't talking about.
Yeah,
but I mean,
but it's relevant to your point about like there seems to be a lot of tag team strife across both brands, and I fully agree. And I mean, I know that is not an atypical pro wrestling trope, but it seems like to be in the air right now across both brands.
Yeah.
So. Definitely worth noting. It makes me wonder if some of those stories are going to be roads to nowhere, or if some of these teams are actually going to break up. Because like 2 tag teams have been discussed at least tonight that look like they're on the dissension to breaking up. Top Flight and the Acclaimed. Yeah. So we'll see where that lands. Yeah. But after that particular spot with the Acclaimed, we are brought to match 3, which is Roderick Strong versus the Beast Mortos. And I think the internet really either likes this particular angle or they super hate it. But it's this idea that the Beast Mortos was working with the Undisputed Kingdom briefly, and Roderick Strong and the Undisputed Kingdom have been courting the Beast Mortos, and they keep trying to give him like presents and talk to him, and like Roderick's always like, "Beast!" And here is the Beast Mortos. He joined up with LFI, and Strong is like, "What's up with that, man?" And so Strong apparently browbeats Mortos, and that causes the Beast to feel conflicted during this match, having to fight Roderick Strong.
Yeah, because they've been so nice to him, and they've given him beast meat.
They've given him beast meat, yeah. But here's the thing: know.
He's torn.
Like, I only felt like the Beast Mortos was conflicted. Like, I didn't feel like Strong had any issues at all beating the hell out of Mortos when he could.
Strong felt very, very solid in his ass beatery. He did not. He was not wavering. He wasn't going, "Should I kick the Beast Mortos' ass?" Nope. He fully committed. And meanwhile, the Beast Mortos was like, "I don't know. I really like him." Rawr!
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Do you?" Yeah, he dropped me on my neck for the 3rd time tonight.
He's my buddy.
Friend?
Yeah, so it was interesting from the perspective of that only like the Beast Mortos was portraying that he was conflicted. I thought, okay, that's kind of fun. But like Strong wasn't, so Strong was like any chance he could get, he was beating on Mortos. So it was only a one-sided conflict. And despite the fact that Mortos hit Strong with a whole bunch of surprisingly like backbreaker style moves, against the Messiah of the Backbreaker, including a power bomb like on his knee. So at one point, Strong is trying to go for like an Olympic slam, but he can't lift him because his back is hurting. But despite that fact, Mortos hearing more voices in his head than Randy Orton in that moment in time left him open to a jumping knee to the face, which leads Roderick Strong to, I think it's his second win in this series that he needed.
Yeah, it is.
So, Roderick catches his win. It was kind of an entertaining match, and there's multiple stories going on here. One, it's the second win that Strong needs in his competition, his friendly competition with Adam Cole, to get to 3 wins so that they can fight MJF.
Yeah.
And Mortos was all conflicted, so poor Mortos.
Yeah, poor guy. You hate to see it.
But after the match, the hitman Lance Archer, who was called in by MJF by way of the Don Callis family, hits the ring and drills Roderick Strong with a blackout. Although, as hitmen go, if you're trying to stop Roderick Strong from getting wins, you should have blacked him out before the match.
You took it out of my face. You took it right out of it. I was waiting. Yeah, I was thinking, you're late though, bro.
Right.
And this was a short match. Maybe he thought it was gonna go on a little bit longer, and he still had time to finish that taco backstage. But then he was like, oh shit, they're finishing. He finished, come right out, and he fucking gives them, the blackout. But yeah, but here, and also, if I may, so you're a hitman. Do you stop at one move?
Yeah, I don't think he's dead yet.
You trying to stop this dude from showing up for this match, right? Okay, so you've already fucked up trying to stop the match, or trying to stop him from winning the match. You've already fucked that. Okay, it's over. All right, plan B. Then you gotta fuck him up so bad that his third match he loses. Or
he can't even have one.
He can't even have one. You take him out of commission. That's what you do. Same thing with Adam Cole. But no, you're gonna come up all late. I'm gonna tell you right now, you would not get an extra sandwich if you were my hitman.
No.
You come back, you tell me what happened, and I'm like, well, that's great, but no extra sandwich for you. You fuck.
Yeah. Yep.
You slow fuck. You slow.
Yep.
Blackout slamming fuck. Go sit down.
So
no extra sandwich.
That was the only part of it that I was like, well, you should have beat Roderick up before the match, not after.
Or at all. Because all you did was like your one move, man. Like your one. Okay, so if you were going to pin him and win a match, that would have been great. But you were there to destroy.
Yeah, I mean, go get a chair and put it around his neck. That seems to be the de facto put you on the shelf move. There you go.
Yeah, you want to put him on the shelf for like 6 months. That's what you do.
Yeah, and we already know Roderick Strong, although he's neck strong, his neck has been a weakness in the past. So, I mean, get that neck.
Get the neck. Yeah. Protect your neck.
I mean, that's where neck nubs comes from.
Yeah, I mean, truth. I'll stop you when you're lying.
So, while I was happy to see Lance Archer hit the ring and hit the blackout, I really think him and Big Brian Cage, who I think was out there with him but didn't interfere at all, they really could have done a number on Roderick, and they didn't. So, okay. I guess MJF needs to either hire different men or pay more. I don't know.
Yeah, he must be paying shit. I mean, that envelope that Thumbhead got did look a little thin. It did. I mean, I was like, what is that? Like $500? Like what? Are you paying him to park your car? What is this?
Well, I mean, he even gave him the Dynamite Diamond ring. So I'm like, come on, man.
But he wants the ring back. I don't even know why he gave him the ring.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it was because they were afraid that hearing MJF literally make the offer over the phone would have kept it too vague. So he needed the ring to. Oh, it is MJF.
Also, I would not do two things that Don Callis did immediately upon receiving that ring. I would not put it on my finger, and I would not kiss it. Uh, I'm good.
Yeah, because much like CM Punk kissing that charm bangle that was
Eh.
in Drew McIntyre's pants, that Dynamite Diamond ring has spent a lot of time in the tiny underwears of
Ugh,
MJF. So,
God.
yeah.
Ugh. Okay, so yeah. Gross. And speaking of gross,
Ah,
I'm gonna
segue.
talk about, I'm gonna talk about the next segment, and I say it's gross because I do feel some kind of way about this. Okay, and it's
Let's hear
it's
it.
not her fault. It's not her fault. Okay, she's just going kayfabe. All right. Well, Mariah May is on camera. She cuts a little promo about hating, uh, how she used to love, women's wrestling, but now she can't stand it. Um, and for her, I want you guys to just meditate on this. Uh, in her mind, it's filled with arrogant little shits. Mariah May, who just started out her promo with "I used to love women's wrestling, but now I can't stand it," and then finishes that with "It's filled with arrogant little shits," and she wants to stand on the necks of other women to make her name, right? But also she wants to be the one to kill women's wrestling. Like, what? Okay, first of all, you basically came out here and buried all the other women backstage. Like, buried the women that you ain't been in the ring with. Cause you haven't been in the ring with any chick that has any chance of beating you. The closest you got was Queen Amanada. And after that, Tony Storm, but you ain't been in the ring with Tony Storm. So you've come out here, stolen most of Tony Storm's moveset, fought mid card and below. Of course, squashed most of them, and now have the audacity to talk shit about all the other women backstage that you ain't put hands on. You outside of your mind?
Yeah. Well, for me,
It's
the
a
the
bad
reason.
move. I'm sorry. Sorry.
No,
It's a
no, go ahead.
it's a bad move to bury to bury the woman backstage when you haven't had any goddamn good matches. When you yourself looks pretty stagnant and boring, it's a bad move to bury everybody else. You basically that's damn near going into business for yourself. For me, it was so close because you know damn well that the women you're talking shit about, they don't dictate who gets in the ring with them, and you don't either.
Well,
That rubbed me the
if,
wrong way.
yeah. Well, it rubbed me the wrong way too, but for a slightly different reason. Um, Mariah May coming out there basically saying that the women's roster or the women's division sucks would feel different if that weren't like kind of on the chin true. Like it it doesn't work as like feeling like some, heel being overly egotistical. It feels like, yeah, that's unfortunately true. There's like
No,
three or four women that are kind of good, and the rest of the division in AEW for women is pretty bad.
right,
And
but
so
these are the
it
women she ain't been in the ring with.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying as
Oh yeah,
well.
yeah.
I'm just saying the way it bothered me is that, like, you might not want to spotlight that your women's division sucks so overtly when it in fact does. Like, it's different when like some, like go into the WWE. It's different if Roman Reigns is like, I beat them all. There ain't nobody who can handle me, when they actually have a strong men's division and he's actually beaten some sound guys. But Mariah May saying it here just, I feel like, spotlights the fact that the women's division is the weakest, one of the weakest elements in AEW. Like, their women's division is terrible. and it really needs a lot of help. So Mariah May
Yeah, you ain't
shit
wrong.
canning it sort of feels a little like CM Punk in that junket
Yes,
after whatever
yes.
pay-per-view, where he is literally shit canning AEW's whole roster for real. And
That's
I don't
again, you
think
took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly what
yeah,
I was about to say.
and I don't think Mariah May was actually going into business for herself. I just think that this promo was a little unself-aware. It's like, yeah, your women's division does suck. So that AEW's women's division needs help. Like, that's just the
It
truth.
really
And I feel
does.
like Mariah May was basically saying the same thing here. So it wasn't like sort of like heel irony or, being big ego is not how it came off, which is what I think they were hoping would be the case, but it's
No,
not.
yeah.
Like, their women's
It,
division is legit bad. So it actually needs to be helped.
she's not wrong. The thing is, she ain't doing nothing about it either. Like you
No,
can't
she's
we can't have somebody talking some like, and yes, we all know, yeah, this fucking division sucks. It sure does. And then right after that, we have one of the more comparable female competitors in a match with I don't know. I mean, you know what? If this leads to a better thought out, a better put together women's division. If her shit talking and basically kayfabing, borderline going into business for herself. I know she didn't. You know what I mean? But I mean, if that's what it takes for us to see something other than these really shitty female matches where they just get in and fucking half-ass it, if that's what it takes, then let's go. Let's go. But
yeah.
I'm just saying, how about you shut the fuck up until you get into the ring with somebody that I feel like could possibly give you some business, who could possibly give you some work, because you haven't. You haven't. And if and the other thing, if that's so damn important to you, then call out the biggest baddest bitch you see. Call her out yourself. You're the champ, right? And you're looking to kill the women's division. Okay, well then kill it. Pick your next victim. No?
Well,
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, this is actually, you're making a good point here, and it's the same point that we've made with regards to Marina Shafir and the Death Riders,
Yeah.
right? If they've come to, this is our company now, and Marina Shafir is so badass, then why isn't Moxley and the Death Riders, why aren't they going against Mariah May? Why isn't Marina Shafir attacking Mariah May or attacking Mercedes Moné, who's got 2 belts?
Yeah.
And similarly, why isn't Mariah going after like Chris Statlander or Mercedes Moné and getting more belts?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so there's what you
Absolutely.
say, and then there's what you're doing, and there's some spots where it ain't lining up.
Yeah.
And that's on top of the fact that you are more or less saying what the audience is actually thinking, and that is that the women's division is kind of lame. Um, so I'm not sure that's good. Like, none of that is good. Like,
Yeah.
if you're
And
so worried about not finding competition, why aren't you calling out like the other
that's
belt holders
come
in the
on.
women's division and getting all of it for yourself? And
Yeah.
same with Marina Shafir. If the Death Riders are here to revolutionize all of AEW and not just set up a feud with Orange Cassidy, which is all
Yeah.
that I feel that the Death Riders have significantly done here.
Yeah.
It's not feeling like we've taken over the whole company thing. It feels like it's getting, that whole situation feels like it's getting as stale as whatever the Elite were supposedly doing by taking over when they assaulted Tony Khan. Like, it's like, this doesn't feel like it's industry wide, or not industry wide, but promotion wide enough.
Yeah.
You should have your finger in just about every pot if that's what you're doing. And meanwhile, all Marina Shafir has been relegated to doing is carrying Moxley's belt out to the ring. Why isn't she going
That's it.
after all of the women who have gold to make the Death Riders actually run the whole show?
Because she's too busy sucker punching dudes. She's too busy doing that. She's too wrapped up in it. You know, she's helping destroy the industry or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah,
Listen,
exactly.
the very next person that should have been on screen after Mariah May cut her promo should have been Shafir. It should have been. It should have been somebody like that. It should have been somebody
Yeah.
like Statland or somebody who was like, yeah, I'm hearing a lot of shit talking from you, and I'm ready. I want the smoke. Let's go. And
Yeah.
another thing, that's the difference between the female competitors and the male competitors. A male competitor like Ricochet, let's say Ricochet, he would have got on camera and said that he's tired of people seeing him a certain way. He's tired of this. He's tired of that. And while he's on it, he's calling out whoever. You know, I'm calling on whoever for a match. Blah blah blah. Or he would give a name. Yeah, Will Ospreay. I want you. Blah blah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
not Mariah. Not
Well,
Mariah.
to
She
be
wants to
fair,
kill the division by staying backstage and brushing her hair. I guess. I
and
don't know.
waiting for something to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your point,
Uh
Ricochet
oh.
actually did that. Ricochet went
Yep.
to New Japan and attacked the current heavyweight champion over there, which is Zack Sabre Jr.
Yep.
And so he's calling his shots, whereas Mariah May is complaining that shots aren't being taken at her enough. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, to some extent, I don't disagree. Like, where's Marina Shafir or where is Mercedes Monet? You know, Mercedes has two pieces of gold. Doesn't she want to get them all? Like
No,
Pokemon, gotta
it
get them all.
it already takes her too long to walk to the ring with all the extra gold weight. She get a third belt, she'd just have to be
At that point,
she'd
she's
have to,
doubled her whole body weight.
Camille would have to carry her to the ring.
I mean, do something like that, though. I mean, um, so yeah, it's just all over the place. The women's division could really use some help. As far as I'm concerned, it is currently the weakest element of AEW's programming.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Without question.
and I point that out because obviously AEW and WWE are in competition with one another.
Yeah.
And WWE's women's division, like from NXT up, is probably the best in the industry.
Yeah.
So this is an area that if AEW wants to continue to compete, especially if the WWE is starting to open up their options with like bringing back pile drivers and other moves for what they can do to compete with AEW's in-ring action, then AEW is going to have to step up their women's division. And that's just the truth.
Yep. Because Stone Cold says, yeah.
And that's the bottom line. But we go from Mariah May talking all that smack to Anna Jay speaking with Lexi Nair saying she wants Mariah May. She believes she'll choke her out until she pisses herself. And I'm like, well, you've already been in the ring with Mariah May twice, and you got to win on her with like a quick roll up, which is almost like a sucker punch, right? Like anybody on any night could get lucky with a quick roll up pin. That's like a trope that wrestling has kept, that the roll up pin is the secret finisher that everybody can use. And then after that, the spear. But you know, in the second match, Mariah May pretty much kicked her ass, and so now we're expected. Like it's hard for me to take Anna Jay that seriously when she, you know, barely scraped by a win and then straight up lost, and now in the third match. You know what I mean? Like when you're talking shit from the bottom, it doesn't sound that good.
Yep. You're not wrong. And it even got dumber actually. What she was requesting, because she wants a no DQ match, and if she doesn't win, she won't challenge her for the championship ever again. Who cares? That's not a big flex. Is it just
and
me?
it's not a great flex because I mean, Cody Rhodes did that when he was in AEW, and it significantly limited his creative options. Like, he recently spoke about how that might have been a mistake to do that, to where he wouldn't challenge for the championship again. Now, at least in this one, it's the caveat that she won't challenge Mariah May for the
Yeah,
championship again.
yeah.
So at least
Which
it's
is why
done
it's like
if Mariah loses, but
yeah, it's a non-issue. Honestly, okay, so you won't, so you'll have what, a third match with her, uh, and if you don't win this time, you won't have another match with her for the belt. Okay,
yeah.
sure.
So if
That's
anything,
really not that.
you're signaling to me one of two possible things. One, that Anna Jay might win, or more likely that someone's going to beat Mariah May in the not terribly distant future. Um, which might be that you're actually signaling that Tony Storm's making her way back.
Yeah, and okay. I mean, it's just that's not like a huge. Basically, you're just telling us that you're having another match for story progression. All right, that's fine. That
Yeah.
that that's fine. Let's do that. But could you not just don't stop putting the weird stipulation? Because that's a weird flex. Because
Well,
that's weird. Like
yeah.
that's a non clause. Like it's not a. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No,
It's not
I
like
agree.
it's not like if I don't win, I retire. It's not like that.
Yeah. And I agree. And right now, I think there's maybe a handful of women that I think would make a suitable person to win the belt off of Mariah. But I think they're holding it for Tony Storm. Like, I really do think that's
Yeah,
bespoke. Um, but Jamie Hayter could. Um, Willow Nightingale possibly could.
yeah,
And Chris Statlander could, and maybe a returning Julia Hart. Um,
yeah,
and that's about it. Like, they've buried a lot of the other ones. Like, unfortunately, I like Nyla Rose. Like,
yeah,
Nyla's a beast when she gets in the ring, but they don't ever seem to want to let Nyla actually get that, to get to that point. Um, and Mariah's like,
yeah.
I've already beaten Nyla Rose, so never again. Um,
And yet you'll have 15 matches with Anna Jay.
yeah.
So
And after that particular set of exchanges, we come to match 4, which is Chris Statlander versus Ashley Vox. And if you hadn't heard of Ashley Vox before, don't worry, you're not going to remember her after this match because it was straight up a squash.
yeah,
Um, I pretty much believe it was like one move, then Saturday Night Fever, and then it was over. So essentially, this was Chris Statlander coming out to hit her finisher and call it a win.
yeah.
And not that I dislike seeing Saturday Night Fever, but like that's that's as much of a match as if we're calling that a match, then we had a bonus match between Lance Archer and Roderick Strong earlier. I mean, that's what it was. He came out and hit Blackout on Roderick. I mean, match, pad it. This instead should be match 5. Um,
This
but
isn't this isn't
go
as
ahead.
big a this isn't as big a move as they may think it is. Happening right after the champion of the women's division just shit canned the division. This isn't as like that. This just felt like a joke. Right after that, right after a promo like
Yeah.
that, this felt like uh ha ha. Like
Oh,
this was a 30-second long fart is what this was.
yeah. But wait, it gets better because then
Oh yeah.
Statlander, who is for all intents and purposes like baby powder fresh because all she did was like one move and her finisher. Mercedes comes out and hits her with a backstabber and floats that into I don't know, whatever she's calling what used to be the bank statement now. I don't know what it is now, but essentially just a crossface.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, a totally fresh Statlander who weighs more than, like, with one of her legs weighs more than Mercedes Monet's entire body, just could not get out of this move. Like, when all she would have had to do is stand up or do a push up, right? Like, we didn't have the benefit of, like, oh my god, she clobbered her with, like, the belt and 5 chairs or anything to wear down Statlander. So this was weird to me too because it didn't sell me on the idea. Like, it wasn't believable that Chris Statlander could suddenly not get out of this, like, submission hold fresh. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't even beat her up a little bit. It wasn't like she had a super long match and was tired or anything that
Yeah.
explains why Statlander, who has so much more size and muscle on her than Mercedes, couldn't break out of this stick figure putting her in a submission hold.
Yeah.
And so this
So
was stupid. So on top of whatever bad joke the match was after Mariah May buried the women's, this was an even worse joke that followed.
yep.
And instead of making Mercedes look strong, which I think they're desperately trying to do so that they, sunk cost fallacy can, like, justify why they paid for this crap that has been Mercedes and AEW, they buried Statlander. This made Statlander look weaker, not Mercedes look stronger.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. This was not a good look at all. The entire segment from the moment that Mariah May is on screen, talking her dumb shit, to the time that Chris Statlander is getting the Monet Maker done to her. It's one long fart.
Yeah,
It's
like
one
this was a
long
women's
joke. One
division
long.
raspberry.
Yeah, it's like AEW sought to shit can the women's division for a minute. How long this bullshit took.
Yeah, like all together from start to finish, from Statlander coming out to Mercedes putting her in the backstabber, I feel like might have been at tops 5 minutes, and that's with travel time.
Yeah.
So yeah, nothing about any of those particular promos into this segment was good.
Yep.
So don't expect that to be considered top tier. But moving on from that blight, we then see Jake Roberts in the back with LFI, and Rush is wondering what's wrong with Mordos. He says that the Undisputed Kingdom might be Mordos' friends, but LFI are family, and Jake Roberts whispers / hoarsely states that the Acclaimed are squirrels trying to find a nut. And Rush reminds us that if you mess with the bull, you get the horns. Sorry, herns.
I think is what you meant.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I guess we're Mortos needs to stop being conflicted is the moral of that story, and
Yeah.
that LFI are coming for the Acclaimed nuts, I
Yeah,
guess.
and don't just let Roderick Strong kick your ass. Like you just went out there and let your friend beat you up, and every time he beat you up, you were like, "I'm conflicted." Don't do that. Get your shit
Yep.
together, Mortos, please. Go to therapy. Stop it. Get some help.
And I think at the end of this, you had mentioned that you weren't sure that Jake Roberts would work with LFI, but it does. And I don't disagree. I think if I had one picadillo, it's that sometimes I can't hear Jake Roberts because he's whispering.
Yeah.
But you said he's got something going on with his throat, so I'm not trying to pick on him overly. It's just that the promo does get a little lost on me if I can't actually hear you. I'm like, wait, what did he say?
Yeah.
But I think you could be in for a good match with LFI versus the Acclaimed. I think there's a good match there. And I don't dislike getting to see Mortos pretty much whenever he's available to be seen. uh, I it always ends up leaving me like kind of with a grin on my face with regards to him. He's fun, and as surprisingly, Jake Roberts is on the record as having said in an interview, the thing that's missing from pro wrestling these days are characters, and
Yeah.
that's what guys like Mortos and the Outrunners are. They're characters, and so I don't disagree with him. So
Yeah, I agree. Um, I think I said in the last the last podcast about AEW that I didn't think that that Jake would work with LFI, but I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm very happy that I was incorrect. I think they make a good fit, and I hope I'm not trying to just repeat what you were just saying, but basically I'm agreeing that that they look good, and I I'm hoping. You know what? Actually, I kind of like the weirdness that's happening with with Motos and his confliction. But I don't think that's
yeah,
gonna
it's
lead to
fun.
anything. I think it's gonna stay with I think he's gonna stay with LFI.
Yeah.
Um,
But I mean, even still, it's kind of fun. Like
yeah,
it's just some of the silly fun that is part of pro wrestling, and I like that. In I guess I just like all of it. I like that, and I like the like hardcore in ring action. I mean, I'm just a fan. So for me, I don't feel like I need to pick between the two extremes. Like one
yeah,
is where it's super intense and the wrestling, we're bleeding out of our eyes. And on the other end,
yeah,
it's a little bit cheesy and slightly goofy, and I'm cool with both.
yeah.
Um, I think there's a place for both, and they can coexist. So I'm here for it. Um, and I think you have a lot of potential in LFI. I think Roosh could be very, very good. I mean, he already is very, very good, but I think he could be bigger than where he's at right now. And
Yeah.
Mortos, I think, has just caught fire with the fan base. Like everybody is into the Beast Mortos.
Yeah, but he's so
I
cool. That's why.
exactly.
Mm,
And he has a way with words. But
yeah,
I,
he's a
I think
poet.
there's that one other guy, and this is an example of what exactly I'm talking about because I can't remember the other
Yeah,
member of LFI's name that has not stood out at all. He also seems to be kind of like the most generic mask like lucha guy that's on their team. And
yeah.
so that fella is going to have to do some stuff to stand out when he's up against like the over the top intensity of Rush or the just outlandish character of Mortos. He's going to get lost.
You're not wrong. You're not
But
wrong. Wow.
moving on from there, I ain't want no trouble, Rush. You keep those herns over there. Moving on
Don't
from
want the
that,
smoke.
we get to match 5, which is AEW TNT Championship. Jack Perry, the reigning champ, versus Action Andretti. And I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair to this particular match because I'm not into Jack Perry or Action Andretti. Jack Perry, I have a hard time figuring out what type of character he's trying to convey here. He just seems like our edge lord. Look at my cool black belt with some red stuff on it. And then Action Andretti, who was given like he was made kind of famous ish by getting a surprise win on Jericho, only to be kept as more or less a jobber. So I don't know what's happening with Andretti either. And so I
Uh,
didn't have a lot of interest in this match at all. So I don't, maybe the in ring was pretty good. I mean, it was a solid enough match, but since I really don't care for, I really don't have an interest in either of the two competitors.
mhm.
It really didn't do anything for me.
Nah. It didn't. It didn't do anything for me either. You are not alone. It didn't do anything.
Yeah, I can't say that the match itself was bad. I think it was actually probably okay, probably somewhere in like a 3.5 range. So it wasn't bad, but it wasn't particularly over the top memorable either. And again, neither of the two competitors or anybody that I have like as a fan, I don't have any interest in Jack Perry or Action Andretti.
Yeah.
Um, so it was a match. It happened. It didn't suck, but it didn't move me in any way. And it all felt like it was more or less a lead up to what happened in the post match. The winner, by the way, was Jack Perry. He retained, of course, because
What?
he's not going to lose to Action Andretti here, not with as strongly as they've tried to push him. But then Daniel Garcia shows up after the match and gets in the ring and tells Perry that he's nothing like Perry. And Perry tries to act tough, like especially as Danny is getting in his face. And this might be why I don't care for Jack Perry, because he's trying to come off as a badass when he's like 30 pounds soaking wet. And it was just accentuated by the fact that equally tiny Danny Garcia, like these are guys that don't break 200 pounds as full grown adult men.
Yeah.
He goes to push Daniel Garcia and more or less just pushes himself away from Garcia because he's got, you know what I mean? Like, it's like watching
Uh,
two skinny nerds trying to act hard. And it doesn't work for me.
yeah.
And Garcia goes on to tell Perry that he's a Nepo baby. And I'm like, Nepo from what? Like, what nepotism helped him in professional wrestling that his dad was on 90210? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
he's not like I'm a fifth generation wrestler. It's certainly not the Anoa'i family, which you could definitely cry Nepo baby about all of that. But you know, like
Yeah.
what nepotism helped him by being related to what was his dad's name? Luke Perry
Yeah.
from 90210 and I think another show that I can't even remember. Like he wasn't even like a big star. He was like a TV guy. So like I just don't see this Nepo baby that you're trying to sell to me.
Yeah.
So anyway, Garcia challenges Perry at Full Gear, and Perry accepts, but he goes on to tell Garcia he isn't ready, which has been Garcia's whole storyline. You know, a couple of storylines that I could see die in a fire over in AEW?
Yeah.
Telling young guys that they're not ready, and these factions that want to fight for the soul of a young guy. I've seen that happen with Garcia back when it was JAS versus Blackpool, and I'm seeing that right now with at least a little bit. I don't know, they may have given up on it, which would be okay with me, but I'm seeing that with regards to what's his name? The dude in the Blackpool Combat Club that's like the young guy who's like 30 something, but they keep calling him kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
All I
Wheeler.
can think is
Yuta.
pussy
Yuta.
face. Yeah, Wheeler Yuta. That's all that was coming to my head. I couldn't remember his damn name. Just what we used to call him. But they completely killed Wheeler Yuta's like Wheeler did a really good job acting distraught about the Daniel Bryan thing and then
Yeah.
unleashing like this like, oh look, it's Darth Wheeler now. You
Yeah.
know, and they did all that just to turn him back into a freaking minion again immediately, and it was such a waste. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping they're stepping away from it. Let's see. Um, yeah, I'll speak to it more when we get to the final match of the night because that's where it becomes relevant. But that just rubbed me the wrong way because I'm tired of them treating like these guys like, oh well, are you a pro wrestler? Or are you a sports entertainer? Are you a good guy? Or are you a bad guy? Are you your own man, or do you just follow? It's like, oh god, it's so tiresome.
Yeah.
And Garcia was on the receiving end of that, as has been Wheeler Yuta. And I'm telling you, it ain't helping these guys. It makes them look
Yeah.
like minions, and if you're trying to push them as being these guys that can think for themselves and are a competitor in their own right, it undermines that. So stop.
Yeah.
And it really did that with Wheeler Yuta recently, and I'm sick of Perry's like, Garcia, you're not ready. I'm like, he's in the ring, he's ready to kick your ass. I think he's ready, and
He's looking ready.
it's
He's
not
looking
like
hella ready.
it's not like you're trying to get Garcia to defeat Big Bill here. It's you, tiny little Perry, one of the guys that's
Yeah.
smaller than Danny Garcia.
Yeah.
So moving on from that, we get to a very cool, actually, a very cool video package for Julia Hart. And here is another person in AEW who is trying to convey a character. And Julia Hart is performing a kind of Nightmare on Elm Street-esque like package here where it shows her on a football field being a cheerleader, which is where I actually think she comes from. I think she used to be a cheerleader. And then it's almost like her dark persona is killing off her old naive cheerleader girl. And it was pretty cool. Like she's sitting here doing like a frantic cheer because she's scared by the side of herself that she sees in the bleachers. And that side of herself draws an arrow and shoots her straight in the heart. And I'm like, that's fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
back that shit up in the ring and keep that going, and Julia Hart could very easily rise to the top of, again, not a tall order with this particular women's division, but she could be a big fish in this small pond.
Yeah.
Especially portraying that character. That was one of the better character bits, even for anyone in House of Black, to be perfectly honest, since they're sort of the creepy, eerie, supernatural, like, the House of Black fills the role of like what Undertaker and Kane and the Wyatt Six used to. They're sort of the weird, creepy, not as supernatural as some of those have portrayed, but they're that kind of a vibe.
Yeah.
The vibe of the Wyatt Six and the Final Testament.
Yeah.
And so this was really cool.
I agree.
I'm here for it. So that was excellent. Any further thoughts on that, or just you agree?
No, I thought it looked really cool. I mean, you basically said everything that I would have said about it. Uh, yeah, and it was her old. She had an old persona of a cheerleader. That was her last character. So yeah, she was her new one was slaughtering the old one. And so I'm here for it. Let's go.
Yeah,
She
it was
she
pretty
I
good.
never had a problem with her in the ring. She was always she always brought it. So I'm ready to see her again. And I'm hoping that seeing a promo, that means that she's coming back soon. So
That is indeed the hope. And then after that, we get a segment where Wayne is on the Tron before the match coming up, and he says it's an important day as it's the anniversary of AR Fox's dad's death. And like, I don't know what's up with the patriarchy, why they're so infatuated with the daddy issues thing, but it seems to be their whole shtick.
yeah,
And that aside, we enter into match 6, which is Nick Wayne accompanied to the ring with his mom and Kip Sabian versus AR Fox all by himself. And I had really high hopes going into this match because we just saw a hell of a banger between Ricochet and AR Fox. And so I thought, maybe we'll see some extra push for AR Fox because we've been seeing a lot of push for Nick Wayne. But that momentum for AR Fox did not continue here.
yeah,
He did some cool stuff. I mean, the in ring on this match was actually very good. I am surprisingly impressed. I don't like how Nick Wayne looks. I don't like his stupid entrance theme. His mannerisms make him look like super fruity. Like not even in the same way as like MXM, but his is more like if you grabbed like some European noble from like the 15th century, how they sort of carry their hands bent up and at their sides. And I mean, he's just got a weird way of behaving in the ring. That said, his in ring work has gotten really, really good.
Yeah.
Um, he went at it with AR Fox. We got all of what you were hoping to see. We got Swanton bombs out of AR Fox. We got
Yep.
a Rolling Thunder cutter attempt. Um, so from AR, we got a what is that one move he likes to do? It's the Spanish fly, like the rebound Spanish fly from the top rope, but he's got a fancy name for it that's eluding me right now. Um, like it sounds like chicken chow mein or something, but like like I
Yeah.
can't
I
think of
know.
it
I
off
know
the
what you're
top of my
talking
head.
about. Yeah.
Um, but like so AR Fox was hitting his moves and it was looking good, but he just wasn't like to me. Maybe it's because it was more surprising to me, but Nick Wayne is now throwing dragon suplexes with a perfect bridge. And I'm like,
Yeah.
holy crap, dude. And then he's got this new finisher that he's doing, which is basically a double underhooked Canadian destroyer that looks amazing. So, as good as AR Fox might have been in this match, he literally got outshined by Nick Wayne, which blows my mind because Nick Wayne
Yeah.
is still brand spanking new at this, and he is coming along quick.
Yeah.
So, whatever I might think about how he presents, in terms of how his character affectations are and his theme music aside, his in ring work is silly good.
Yeah. I agree. Um, the only problem that I had with this particular match is the winner, and it's not really that I have a problem that Nick won, but it's that AR didn't. I kind of was hoping that AR would get the win
Yeah.
here,
Yep.
but both men give us a great match, and they did. They both gave us a great match. But I think, like in hearing you describe the match, I think it sort of registered for me that that was the intent of AR Fox, was to make Nick Wayne look good, because AR Fox he's no spring chicken. He's been in this game for a minute, and he's helped people like Nick Wayne
Yeah.
get here. So I think that he was just here to make Nick Wayne look good, which makes AR Fox look even better in my opinion, or in my eyes. But it made Nick Wayne look real good. I just dang on wish that AR Fox had won. That's all.
Yeah, I could totally. I mean, I think I agree with you. I think for me the only thing is that after that banger that AR Fox put on with Ricochet, I thought maybe we would see that momentum carry AR Fox into a push, and I guess that wasn't the intention at all. Um, or at least not versus Nick Wayne.
Yeah,
Um, and I think what impresses me here is that Nick Wayne is very much portraying like that little annoying rat kind of heel.
yeah,
But the difference is Nick Wayne is actually getting to the point where his in-ring work is so good that he could win if there were no interference and no shenanigans.
yeah,
And that almost was the case here. There was a minor interference by Kip Sabian providing a distraction that caused Fox, I think, to miss a 450 splash, but that was it. Otherwise, it was pretty much a straight up win for Nick Wayne.
yeah,
And his in-ring work sells it as such. Like he's not that heel that couldn't win if he didn't cheat. He's that heel that can beat you, but will also cheat if it's convenient.
yeah,
And that's an impressive spot for Nick Wayne to be arriving at this early in his career. Um, I was impressed. I was impressed by Nick Wayne's in-ring work here, and AR Fox looked fantastic as usual. But I think I absolutely agree with you. I think I just would have liked to see AR Fox catch a couple of wins after that rub from Ricochet.
Yeah.
But this might be one of the better matches of the night, to be perfectly honest.
It was match of the night for me.
Yeah. It was really good. Oh, and in the post match, after Nick Wayne picks up the victory, he brings out a staple gun and a picture of AR Fox's father, and he staples it onto AR Fox's forehead.
Which is kind of like saying, yeah, and also fuck your face.
And also, fuck your face. So this was some
No,
great...
I do want to point out that this was in retaliation to when Nick Wayne first came to AEW, how Swerve and AR Fox went to his house and beat the snot out of Nick Wayne.
It is.
And so he's like, I haven't forgotten. And so he's kind of getting his payback, which I guess makes sense, and I guess that's why AR Fox didn't win. But whatever.
No, it does. I think it was just the timing of it, because AR Fox just had that match with Ricochet where he really shined. And so the timing of this match, because I think it played out how it needed to play out. You're right. This was Nick Wayne getting revenge for a wound that happened way back when he was coming into AEW for the first time. And all things being equal, if I take the fact that I was disappointed that we didn't get an AR Fox push out of this was some excellent heel work on behalf of Nick Wayne and the Patriarchy, and him getting his revenge on AR Fox for the the stuff that him and Swerve did, and pulling out the staple gun. I mean, I almost feel like Nick Wayne is calling out Swerve now. So just join the line. Like, everybody is calling out Swerve. Seems to be the new hotness.
Yeah.
But I was thoroughly impressed with Nick Wayne in this. Like, I really was. Like, this ended up being very good is in terms of storytelling and showing that Nick Wayne has really come a long ways with his in-ring work and can play the heel role. I know as characters, we're not a big fan of the Patriarchy. We don't like Christian Cage much as characters, right? In the kayfabe, but whatever's going on there is working. Like, it's getting Nick Wayne over. Not over in terms of the kayfabe, right? He's still a heel, but like, I am impressed by the pro wrestler that Nick Wayne is turning into.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I tend to agree with that, because Nick Wayne, like when he the first couple of matches that he had with when he first got there with Swerve, they were good, and I think we both saw lots of potential there. We saw him a little wet behind the ears, but a lot of potential, and that was not too long ago.
No, I think what we're seeing here is the potential that clearly Swerve and Fox and other people saw in Nick Wayne from the beginning.
Yeah, like this kid's really good. I mean, really good. I see the likes of Ricochet, Will Ospreay. Like, I mean, this dude's really freaking good.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, for those reasons, I think it might end up being my match of the night too. Just because it got so much done. If you stop and think about all of what happened there, the in-ring was real solid. Nick Wayne's in-ring is getting really good. And his ability to just stay in character and evoke this like annoying rat heel. And then, after the match, stapling, that picture of AR Fox's father onto his face. Dude, nailed it. So I only have two thumbs, but both of them coming up for that one. I mean, it was good. Speaking of thumbs and possibly touching the tips of them together, we then go to an MXM collection spot where they are in the back talking with Lexi Nair. And
Oh,
they
yeah, okay.
they're talking about how they tried to slide into Johnny TV's DMs and add him to a trios match, but he already had a match for next week. But then they did a little bit of a comedic spot where they were wondering what Johnny had to say about different things, including a picture that one of them had sent to him. And I thought it was funny because Mansoor then quickly tries to show the picture to Lexi, and she jumps like she she thought it was gonna be a dick pic, and she was like, "Ah!" And
Yeah, because
it turns out it
because
was
he
like
called
a
it his
kitten.
hog.
Yeah, and it
No,
turns out
he
that it was, yeah, you're right. It was his hog. He was like, "What did he think of my hog?" And he shows the phone to Lexi, and she jumped because she
and then
thought.
she's like, oh, okay.
And it turns out it was in fact a literal pig.
And he goes,
Um,
Women usually love my pig, my pet pig." I'm like, okay, wow.
and then they tried to exit the scene like Johnny TV does, but the guy pushed, like they had him up on a little dolly, and the guy pushed it into frame instead of pulling them out of frame, and they chastised him. And the whole spot was just, for only being like what, like a couple of minutes of TV time for them to do a spot, the whole thing was hilarious. And
Yeah,
MXM Collection are a real treasure. Again, two more wrestlers doing characters, and it's hilarious, and they're killing it.
yeah,
So I'm here for anything that they want to show, like that MXM is doing in the ring or out of the ring, because those guys are killing it. They are doing so good.
yeah.
Um, that leads us into the final match of the night, match 7,
Uh,
the AEW World Trios Championship. The Death Riders, which is Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli, and the Bastard Pack, versus the Conglomeration, which in this scenario is Mark Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly, and I can never remember his first name, but it's Ishii.
yeah.
And what did you think of this match?
I thought I liked the Death Riders entrance song.
The darker take on Claudio Castagnoli's song?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, on paper, this sounds like a match that would be great, right? Am I wrong? When you hear this, it sounds like a match that you would be hyped for.
I would think so,
Um,
but
but I don't know why it wasn't. It just didn't come together. You know what? That's the theme for this entire episode of AEW. It just kind of didn't come together. Like it was almost there, but there was just something missing from this episode. And this match was no different. There was just something about this particular match that was kind of just meh as a whole. And I don't know, man. I feel bad about even saying, because I mean I don't have like a particularly low score on average for the episode. It just kind of felt like this episode was a maybe because it didn't, maybe because nothing progressed. Maybe that's it. Uh,
I, can I take a guess?
yeah, please.
I think it might be because on the whole we're kind of in limbo, to like somewhere between in limbo to disappointed with the fact that Moxley's been here a month now, and this
Yeah,
whole AEW takeover thing doesn't seem to be going very far, or have the scope that it should. It seems remarkably focused after dealing with getting the belt off of Bryan Danielson. It seems now incredibly focused on just this rivalry between Mox and Orange
Orange.
Cassidy.
Yeah,
And so we're kind. If I had to guess, it's that you're down about the Death Riders over that. and so it sort of sucks the life out of a match involving them.
Yeah, and I also just knew that they weren't losing those belts tonight. Like there was also that. And I think maybe I thought I knew that because Ishii was in the match.
Yeah, well, and that
Um,
was going to be my other part of it, is that like if I run back some of the highlights of the match in my head, like there was some good stuff here.
yeah.
Claudio's been throwing like a big power bomb lately, and Pac is drilling people with tombstone pile drivers that look really good. And of course, you've got Mark Briscoe doing his crazy thing, Kyle O'Reilly doing his striking thing. But then you
Yeah.
come to Ishii, and almost every spot at least in this match until the end, every spot with Ishii is him just no selling strike contest for a prolonged amount of time, and it
Yeah.
literally sucks the oxygen out of a match. Like it's not as cool as whoever thinks it's cool. It's not. It's really boring that
Yeah.
every wrestler from New Japan, on some level and some to just disgusting degrees, get into these like, I can't, I'm not selling strikes, so continue to do them for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, stop. It's so boring. It is so boring. It, for me, is like somebody making a whole match out of a rest hold. It is the most boring shit that you could possibly be doing in that ring. So that needs to stop because it kills the momentum of everything else anybody else was doing in that ring. You remember how we used to complain about Claudio doing an excessive, like to the point of us wanting to like just never watch him in the ring again number of European
Yep.
uppercuts?
Oh,
It's
how can I
that.
forget?
So that is
I
so
still have
tired.
PTSD, by the way. I have PTSD from that. Oh, when I see him do a European uppercut, I shiver because I'm like, oh, like please, I don't want him to just bring it back when that's all he does. Like
Yeah.
he destroyed my brain with it.
Yeah, and now you're right. Like we'll see a European uppercut, and it's like, oh, we're gonna get 25 more of these. But Claudio's actually, to his credit, gotten to where he doesn't rely on that so heavily anymore.
Yeah.
But like every time I see Ishii or whoever oh man, the guy who wrestled Asuka all those years ago and recently had like the worst match
Oh.
Jericho was in. Um,
Oh.
I can't think of
Oh
his
my
name
goodness.
now. But it was terrible with him. It's not good
Yeah.
on Ishii. It's boring when Chibata does it. It's boring, Fortunately, Okada doesn't do it a lot. He does it a little bit, but he does it in just a tiny enough dose that it doesn't get super stale. But like, what was it, Suzuki or something? Ishii and the guy that Jericho wrestled in the worst match ever, they'll do it for so long, and it's so bad, and it just makes you not want to see them. Or at least it does that for me. And it's like it makes me wonder, like, can you not go? Like, is this all you're capable of doing? But then like later in the match, Ishii will start plowing people with like brain busters and pile drivers and shit. And I'm like, why didn't we start there?
Yeah.
Why are you bringing your most boring shit to the ring?
You warming up? He should have done
Yeah.
that backstage.
So like that to me is extremely protracted strike battles is already a problem AEW has, like, writ large, like a little bit in every match.
Yeah.
But these strike battles where it's like, oh look, the guy from Japan is going to no sell chops and punches for the next 20 minutes of the match, seemingly, is like the most boring version of that.
Yeah.
So that all needs to go commit seppuku. Like it is terrible, and it's one of the worst like faux pas of in ring that can happen. And it's odd that it happens so often in AEW that kind of stands out for its in ring being good. That this is such a huge like problem for them.
Yeah.
It makes me immediately unexcited when I hear like Ishii or Chibata or somebody is going to make their way to the ring. I'm like, oh god, this is going to be boring. Um, And so as an entertainment product, being boring is the death sentence. Like that is the thing you don't want. So that to
Yeah.
me is something that needs to be like thrown out yesterday. Get rid of that crap. And it's especially bad when you're doing it in this big multi-man match, which put AEW on the map because it can be these long strings of high spots. But then you get to Ishii, and his high spot is that he's going to no-sell somebody punching him for the next 5-10 minutes. And it's like, stop, dude, just don't. So for me, that takes away from it a lot. And it actually
Yeah.
undermines the higher high spots by creating this like super low spot that like, all the heat you were building, you just poured ice water on it. Stop.
Yeah.
So
Um,
that might have been a big part of it,
for me, yeah, that has a lot to do with it. Especially when you got people like you said, like Claudio and Pac that are just dominating in the ring. But even so just to continue with this match, at some point Moxley's music cuts in, which means that he's coming out, of course, with Marina Shafir, because who else is gonna hold his belt? Um,
carrying his nuts for him.
yeah, and he's pacing the ringside area, uh, and he's like making his way, like it looks like he's about to get into the ring. But then Orange Cassidy's music cuts on,
Yep.
and Moxley decides that he doesn't want to get into the ring now because Orange Cassidy's out there.
Yeah, on the other side of the ring, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So,
didn't help Moxley look dominant at all, by the way, when we're already nebulous about whatever the hell this thing the Death Riders are supposed to be doing that takes up so much TV time and gets billed as like, he's taken over the entire city.
yeah. So, yeah, so he just kind of looks goofy on the other side there, Moxley. And Marina Shafir just has a look on her face that she is very cold and she forgot to bring herself a jacket. And she's quite upset that no one in the auditorium decided to turn the AC up for her. So now she just has to stand here and shiver. And she's gonna talk to somebody when she gets done with this. Maybe management. She's not sure. She's gonna let them
Marina
know.
Marina Shiver.
But she's gonna let them know. She's gonna, maybe perhaps she'll go home, sit by the fire and write a very strongly worded letter. Whatever the case, my point is, she stood out there just looking like she's like she had 12 lemons. Okay, um, that's pretty much it. She had 12 lemons, and she's way too hardcore to wait for fucking water. She just cut them bad boys and just started chewing them raw dog style. I don't fucking know. Um. So yeah, I don't know. I guess that's her. I'm a badass face. Whatever. But she stands out there, and Moxley stands. Um. So Moxley has a facial expression where he goes from uh I'm a serial killer to I just made a poopy. Those are his two extremes. So
Not the poopy pants killer.
yeah, and most of the time he's making poopies. So he's on the other. So he's on the other side of the ring making poop face. Like embarrassed poopy face, and uh Orange Cassidy is on the other side looking at him as if he knows he's pooping. Uh, long story short, man. Uh, Death Riders won. Big freaking surprise, right? Um,
Yeah, basically Shafir clobbers Kyle in the stomach with the briefcase containing, I guess, the AEW Championship belt, and rolls him into the ring where he gets hit with a psycho knee from Wheeler Yuta, and you get the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I didn't even want to talk. I didn't even want to mention the stupid briefcase thing. Guys, I'm telling you, I'm so freaking sick of, you know what, Shafir? You know how ridiculous this looks now? When you have somebody like Shafir, basically carrying a man's briefcase so that she can hit other men with it who can't touch her. You know how ridiculous this looks when the women's champion gets on camera and says that this division is a joke? You haven't been in a match since your
Yep.
stupid scowling face has been seen again. Okay, you ain't been in no kind of match, but you out here beating on dudes who can't whack you back. Do you know how ridiculous? Do you know how non-strong your entire group looks now? Your faction relies on a woman to beat other men to win.
Because they can't hit her back.
Because they can't hit her back.
I've only seen one wrestler retaliate against Shafir in any fashion, and that was when Bryan Danielson, she jumped on his back and he grabbed hold of her arm and yeeted her, like shoulder threw her off of him.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. I really don't want to sound like I'm some sort of like horribly abusive woman beater, but here in the pro wrestling scene, this idea that the wrestlers can't touch the women and we're going to exploit that fact by having the women kick their ass is also very annoying to me too. Like,
Yeah.
you don't hit a lady, but a woman who puts herself in a man's position gets treated like a man. I liked that back in the day where, you would have Randy Orton RKOing Stephanie McMahon. And it's like, yeah, you got your happy ass in the ring. That's live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah, for me, it ain't even a woman putting herself in a man's position in this particular aspect. It's a one wrestler getting into a match with another wrestler, and we all know this shit is kayfabe. Like, we all know that this is cap. So,
yep,
they're both on equal footing in this particular setting. In this setting? I'm not talking about any other sport. I'm saying that in sports entertainment wrestling, you are both faking moves. Okay? You are both faking injuries, you are both faking attacks. So you can both get in the ring and put on a banger because it's happened before. And in this day and age, with women going on and on about how we're equal and how we want to be treated equal, I think it's a joke that we have women in the ring now that are able to hit men, but the men can't touch them back. That is, to me, I'm sorry, but that's pretty freaking sexist.
I'm not really sure
what we're doing here.
It's positive sexism. It's the good
not,
kind.
Though. It's
no,
not, though. I know. It's not. So, but if that's the way, if that's how they feel about it, then the best thing to do is never have them touch. Don't do this. Don't have them touch. Don't have it where the women can hit the men at any given time. We're just, okay, so then we're just going to go the other way with this. We're going to go the other way with this. We're going to have, so I don't want to get into that because that's a whole nother type of podcast. But for sake, man, come on.
But as a wrestling trope, it's getting old.
Just to come away from it, I'll just say specifically to Shafir, this looks weak. It looks weak to have her holding some dude's case and then hitting dudes, like sucker punching them with cases whenever she can get a chance to help these dudes win. This makes the entire faction look weak, which is unnecessary because Claudio and Peck been getting in the ring doing a damn thing. They've been in the ring destroying. These two could go on somewhere and fucking have a tag team that would obliterate the tag team division in AEW. So it's unnecessary.
Yeah. Yep. And I think a whole lot of this worked against whatever the Death Riders are trying to do.
Oh, they're a joke
Um,
now.
I mean, I know that the way this ended up playing out is that the conglomeration ended up running the Death Riders out of ringside and back into the crowd. And I guess the idea was to show that Orange Cassidy, you know, is just as tough as Moxley and the Death Riders and whatnot. And I'm like, I don't think you needed to convey that. Anybody that's been watching AEW for more than 1 minute would not think that.
Yeah.
Because Cassidy has like a win record that is unbelievable, and he's one of the longest reigning international champs ever, if not the. So I don't know why you would think anybody would presume that Orange Cassidy is not a badass.
Yeah.
And we've gotten past the fact that he was reluctant about being the leader. But I feel like, much like Monet coming out and doing her thing with Statlander, it backfired. It made Statlander look weak, not Mercedes look strong. And here, this made the Death Riders look like more of a joke than they're already turning into. It's not. The Death Riders still need to establish that they are something to be reckoned with beyond the fact that you just keep telling us that that's the case. So yeah. The other thing, and this ties into, remember how earlier I was talking about like fighting for the soul of Wheeler Yuta and all that crap?
Yeah.
It makes me think they're coming away from that, because it doesn't look like Cassidy is trying to save Yuta, because the first thing he did when he hit the ring was drop Yuta with an orange punch. So I don't think there's any like, oh, we're trying to win Yuta back, and I'm grateful for that. But a lot of stuff here and in other areas, as far as character arc and match building, did not land, I think, the way they hoped it would, or at least it didn't for me.
Yeah, didn't for me.
So I think that this Death Riders, if they're taking over, like, basically, as near as I can tell, AEW hit the reset button on the storyline that they were trying to do with the Elite, and I guess because it just wasn't going the way they thought, so they restarted it with Moxley and the Death Riders, and it still doesn't feel like they know what the hell they're trying to do with it. Like, this doesn't feel, like I said earlier, like this is an AEW wide takeover. Otherwise, why aren't we seeing every piece of gold being threatened by the Death Riders? Why aren't we seeing Marina Shafir walking up to Mariah when Mariah's saying, "There's nobody in this division, they suck, I'm gonna kill this division off"? Why isn't Marina over there killing Mariah?
Because who's gonna hold Moxley's belt? It's Josh.
Oh, my bad. I should have thought of that.
Come on.
But I mean, they should be trying to disrupt literally everything if this is intended to be a full hostile takeover of all of AEW. And instead, they're barely disturbing Orange Cassidy. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have the scale for this kind of thing right for what they are trying to tell us it is, or what they keep trying to convey to us that it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's not really going over with me, because it's like you've pushed the reset button on a hostile takeover storyline once already, and it already looks like the second attempt is not getting off the ground either.
Yeah.
So,
like the same thing. It's just, ugh. Maybe they had high hopes. Maybe they thought Moxley could pull it off. But I don't know. He was Mr. Poopy Pants. Cannot, not by himself, and to put Shafir next to him, who also cannot pull it off. It just makes them look really goofy. While two other members of their team look really dominant and strong, and the last member just looks uh
Yeah, and I'm not seeing.
unnecessary. Unnecessary. He looks unnecessary.
I'm also not seeing any kind of like. You remember when Moxley said, "Hey, if you're with us, come along. If not, get out the way."
Mhm.
Like, are we seeing any efforts at recruitment other
No,
than
no.
Wheeler, which isn't really recruitment? He just decided to pick one of the two sides he was already on. Um,
No.
it's maybe I was wrong in interpreting this as sort of like an NWO takeover of WCW.
Yeah.
But NWO recruited.
I mean,
NWO definitely drew the battle lines, and
we've
I'm not
seen
seeing that here. I also didn't see that with the Elite. The Elite recruited like two dudes, Okada
yeah.
and Perry, and then that was it. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, this isn't going to be enough of an army to stand against the combined forces of AEW. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
if that was where you're trying to go, you're getting there too slowly. And, you need to accelerate this and show me that that's the intention. Because we've been here over a month now with the presentation of the Death Riders, and it was only like last week that you settled on a freaking name for this group. Whereas
Yeah.
even your announcers were like Moxley and his crew, whatever is this Blackpool still? We don't know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like you guys have an idea of where this thing is even trying to go. So I think that's where my disappointment is with like this whole Death Riders arc. And I feel like that ends up draining the life out of this stuff for me to a degree because it just all feels very convoluted and like you're trying again at a storyline that clearly didn't get off the ground, and it's also still not getting off the ground. This is
Yeah.
bad.
It's just cheesy, man. Even the name Death Riders, like, stop. Like, come on, man. Come on, guys. I
Yeah,
understand that this is like wrestling and this is like a gimmick, but please. All right, well, Death Riders, you guys
yeah.
take it
So
easy.
maybe some people disagree. Maybe they were super into it,
Yeah.
or look at it differently, and that's cool. But that's my take on why I don't think this World Trios Championship match and the following conglomeration versus Death Riders, because that's the level it feels at, right? It doesn't feel like the Death Riders are taking over AEW. It feels like it's one faction that is now embattled with one other faction, and it's only a small part of what is there in AEW. So it's not an AEW takeover. It's just the birth of a new faction.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe that's it. Maybe if I look at it that way, I'm like, okay, I guess it's fine. But it's not this like super takeover that they keep trying to pitch it at. Like they're the ones that have had Moxley cutting promos about this is our company now. We run this joint. They're the ones that put the little placards up that say, coming up, Moxley takes over, list whatever city they're going to be in that night.
Yeah.
You're the ones that are trying to scale it to that degree, and then it's just not being that thing.
Yeah.
So pick a lane. But yeah, I think that summarizes why I'm starting to really lose interest in this whole Death Riders story angle because it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. Like I still don't feel like Moxley has given a good, clean kind of an idea of, oh, well, we can either be against you or for you. Well, what do you stand for? Good luck. Good luck with that. Um, as near as I can tell, the only thing that's really been conveyed is that they don't like people that are just in back collecting a check. Okay. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, man, it's a shame. It's a shame, because I'm not down. I don't want to be down on a wrestler just to be down on a wrestler. Um, but or I don't want to be down on a faction just to be down on a faction. But I'm kind of down on Mox's crew. I'm just gonna call. I don't like Death Riders.
Yeah, Moxley's crew I liked too,
I'm
but
just gonna call them that.
yeah.
Uh, but overall, what is your opinion of this particular episode of Collision? Inquiring minds want to know.
If I had to rate it in terms of neck nubs, there was some high spots. Like I spoke well of, Nick Wayne versus AR Fox. That was a good match. And the trios championship match wasn't the worst match ever, but there are some low points like the strike battle with Ishii and the fact that like whatever the Death Riders are doing is just not clicking for me.
Yeah.
Then you had like Jack Perry and Action Andretti, which was meh at best. You had a squash with Chris Statlander. You had Roderick Strong Beast Mordos was a fun enough match, but it only rises to like good status for me. Like it was nothing great. And Top Flight and Outrunners I found enjoyable because of the people involved. I would also say that was a good match. But then you had promos like Mariah May and Anna Jay that I didn't think landed very well. You also had Mercedes making Statlander look weak, and you know, there was too much not so good to meh to not be counterbalanced out by anything that was either great or good. There was too little of that. So
Yeah.
this does not quite make it to top tier for me. Like out of the neck nub scale out of 10, I would probably rate this generously at a 6.
Yeah. That's about it. I agree. Or I tend to agree here because while there were some decent matches, there was only one for me. Only one really good standout match was the Nick Wayne AR Fox match. Uh, Second to that would be the trios match. Mash. The main event. How about that? Um, that was good, and like you said, the Roderick Strong and the Beast Mortos match was good. Um,
Yeah.
but on a grand scale, and I mean I know that's 3 matches out of what 5.
7.
7?
Yeah.
There were
We had
7 matches.
there were 7 matches.
Good lord!
Yep.
Yeah,
We
so
we had
3 out of 7 then.
the first one was House of Black versus the Iron Savages, which was largely forgettable. Um that mostly was just a quick promo for FTR announcing that on Dynamite for the first time they're going to be facing House of Black on Wednesday. And then we had
Oh,
match number 2, which was Top Flight and Outrunners, which was fun exclusively because of the inclusion of the Outrunners and told a little bit of a tale of Top Flight, their dissension. And then you had Roderick Strong and Beast Mortos, which was entertaining because of the Beast Mortos and him being conflicted. And it was also match 2 in the series. Then you had match 4, which was the squash, real quick with Chris Statlander versus Ashley Vox, only for that to be undermined by Mercedes, like making Statlander then look weak. Um, so yeah, there was a lot here, and not a lot of it was outstanding or super good. So I can't, in good conscience, get to top tier because some of the better parts of it were like not in the ring. Like
right.
Julia Hart's vignette was amazing. Nick Wayne was surprisingly good all the way through that whole segment. And then you had the MXN collection with their little funny thing. And that's a
Right. Yeah, so three matches and 4 of them were meh. So no, I wouldn't call this top tier for me. Just going back to what I was saying. Um, like yeah, this would be a 6.5, or 6.5. So not top tier.
yep. So that has been our review of AEW Collision for November 9th. And I want to thank everybody who has listened this episode, and I hope you join us on our next episode, which should be our coverage of Monday Night Raw from November 11th. Until then, I don't think there's too much left for me to do but roll the outro.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Top Tier Wrestling. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest AEW and WWE news and shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Follow us on social media for updates and to join the conversation. Until next time, everyone, remember, wrestling is always better when it's top tier.